Sunday, 6:03 a.m. The sun hadn't even risen, but my world had already collapsed. My house, once filled with laughter, footsteps, and the soft breathing of the woman I built my life around, was eerily silent. I rolled over to reach for her, instinctively. Empty. Her side of the bed was cold. I thought she was in the kitchen, or maybe walking the dog. But when I stepped into the hallway, I felt it. Gone. Not just her. The pictures on the walls, her closet, her shoes, emptied with surgical precision. Then I saw it. A single note taped to the refrigerator door like some sick joke. Goodbye. Never loved you anyway. That's when my phone buzzed. 8 fraud alerts from 3 different banks. She hadn't just left. She cleaned me out. And what hurt more than the betrayal was the name on the withdrawal trail. Draven. My own brother. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just stood there, shattered, but smiling, because they had no idea who they just declared war on. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to share where you're watching from. We love seeing how our stories bring people together from every corner of the world. Your thoughts and comments are what make this community so special, and we're truly grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story filled with drama, resilience, and unexpected twists. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and maybe grab your favorite drink because this is a tale you won't want to miss. Let's get started. Goodbye. Never loved you anyway. It was 6:03 a.m. On a Sunday when I woke up to an emptiness I couldn't name yet. At first, it was just the cold side of the bed that clued me in. Aurelia usually slept in, curled up under silk sheets with her back to me, hair spilled like champagne over the pillows. But today, nothing. No warmth, no presence. Just sterile cotton and a stillness that made my chest go tight. I sat up slowly. The air in our master suite inside the St. Regis penthouse felt off. Too still. The kind of quiet that follows something violent. I called her name once. Aurelia? Then again, louder. Nothing. My voice bounced back at me like I was shouting down a hollow tunnel. I got out of bed and walked barefoot across the marble floors, half expecting to find her in the kitchen making espresso, maybe wearing one of my old t-shirts. But what I found instead was a post-it note slapped onto the inside of the fridge door. Yellow. Ordinary. Laughable in contrast to the crystal carafes and imported eggs inside. It said, "Goodbye. Never loved you anyway." Just that. No signature. No warmth. No hesitation. Just 6 words that erased 16 years of marriage like they meant nothing. My hands trembled. Not because I loved her. Not anymore. Not because I was shocked. Deep down, I had seen the cracks for months. No. I trembled because I realized something far worse. She planned this. She didn't just walk out. She detonated our life and left me with the fallout. I sprinted toward the living room. Gone. Everything was gone. The Versace curtains we picked out together, replaced with cheap linen ones. My framed law degrees, vanished. The wedding photos from Paris, stripped clean from the walls. Even the piano, my mother's Steinway, the one I inherited, was gone. Taken, like it had never existed. I opened the app for our joint investment portfolio. The screen wouldn't load. Then the texts hit. Fraud alerts. Dozens of them. Citibank. Suspicious activity flagged. $127,300 transferred to foreign account. Amex. $35,000 charge at Graf Beverly Hills. UBS private. All access suspended. Contact your relationship manager immediately. By 6:37 a.m., I was no longer just a betrayed husband. I was the target of a premeditated financial heist. And the worst part? She hadn't done it alone. There had been someone else in our bed for months, and I knew exactly who it was. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to share where you're watching from. We love seeing how our stories bring people together from every corner of the world. Your thoughts and comments are what make this community so special, and we're truly grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story filled with drama, resilience, and unexpected twists. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and maybe grab your favorite drink, because this is a tale you won't want to miss. Let's get started. The lies beneath the silence. When you live in a glass house, you learn to stop throwing stones. But I didn't know my home was glass until I stepped barefoot into the shards. The Monday after Aurelia's conference was quiet. Too quiet. She hadn't texted me since Friday night, hadn't called, hadn't even left a cryptic "see you soon" message. No travel delays, no family emergencies, no excuses. That alone didn't trigger alarms. Aurelia was independent, known for her last-minute whims. But when I picked up Dahlia from her overnight art retreat and she asked, "Daddy, why didn't you come to the gala?" everything shattered. I froze in the school parking lot, my hand still on the driver's wheel. "What gala?" She frowned, tiny brows furrowed like her mother's when she's covering a lie. "Mommy said you didn't feel like coming. She wore her blue sparkle dress. Draven was there. They danced and everything." A hard silence dropped between us. Blue sparkle dress. Draven. Danced. "Where was the gala, sweetheart?" "At the Botanical Terrace. Mommy said you'd be busy with work." The Botanical Terrace wasn't a business conference. It was a high-profile fundraising gala for a fertility foundation. I'd declined our invitation weeks ago, saying it felt too self-congratulatory. Aurelia had agreed, or so I thought. The drive back to our estate was a blur. Dahlia dozed off in the back seat, her tiny hands still stained with green paint from a woodland mural. My stomach turned the closer we got to the house. When I stepped inside, the first thing I noticed was the smell, white gardenias. Aurelia's favorite scent, but she only used it on special occasions. The next thing I noticed was the silence. No jazz playing softly from the kitchen speakers. No clack of her heels pacing the marble floors. Just silence. The note was in the fridge. I opened it to grab a bottle of water, and instead, I found a folded page, sloppy, torn from one of Dahlia's school notepads. "Goodbye. Never loved you anyway." No signature, no explanation. Just those 6 words. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I didn't even curse. I just stared at it, trying to process the logic of it all. How do you interpret the silence of a woman who leaves without a fight? Instead, I called my assistant. "Can you pull all activity on the Pierce-Vance Joint Trust starting Friday afternoon? I want it reviewed by 2 p.m. today." Within the hour, the texts started coming in. Fraud alert. Bank of Napa. Unauthorized withdrawal alert. Checking account ending in 9931. Flag transaction. Luxury auto leasing. $312,000. New joint credit opened with authorized user. D. Pierce. Draven. I laughed. I actually laughed. One of those short, dead chuckles that means you've passed through anger and entered cold disbelief. She didn't just leave me. She tried to rob me blind on her way out, and she added Draven to the account as an authorized user. By noon, the housekeeper found me in the kitchen, staring at the fridge like it still had something to say. "Mr. Pierce?" Marta's voice was cautious. "You want lunch?" I shook my head. "No, but can you tell me if you saw Mrs. Pierce this weekend?" Marta glanced around nervously. "She left Friday. She packed light. Only 1 bag. Draven Pierce ever show up here?" Her eyes dropped to the floor. "No, but she had a car come twice. Black Escalade. Never saw who was inside." I nodded. My heartbeat slowed. I wasn't angry, not yet. But the puzzle pieces were fitting together with sharp edges, and I could feel the pressure of every betrayal tightening around my chest. I waited until Dahlia went upstairs for her nap before pulling up the gala live stream. It was still posted on the Foundation's site. I scrubbed through the first 30 minutes until I saw her, Aurelia, radiant in the blue sparkle dress she promised she'd never wear again because it reminded her of our engagement. Her arms linked with Draven's. They danced beneath the glass dome like they were the couple raising the most funds. And the caption beneath the clip read, "Draven Aurelia Pierce, Legacy Circle Patrons." Legacy Circle. She had used my name, my donations, and my reputation to get them in. I watched the way Draven looked at her, smug, overly familiar, the type of confidence that comes from crossing boundaries and not expecting consequences. He whispered something into her ear. She smiled, and right there, something inside me died. I wasn't shocked they were having an affair. The distance, the deflection, the convenient absence of intimacy, it had all led here. But what gutted me was the performance, the gall to parade their lie as a truth under the name I built. And she didn't even say goodbye in person. By Tuesday morning, I'd frozen all joint accounts and fired off cease and desist letters through my attorney. Draven's name was yanked from every bank file, every business registration, every piece of property. Aurelia's privileges were stripped overnight. But I didn't stop there. I hired a digital forensics expert, Malik, a soft-spoken genius with zero tolerance for deception. He was the kind of man who could pull metadata from deleted photos and text chains buried beneath encrypted apps. I gave him access to Aurelia's cloud backup, old shared storage, even the smart home logs. By Wednesday, Malik called. "You're going to want to see this in person." I drove straight to his office in San Francisco. Malik sat behind 3 monitors, fingers tapping keys like a maestro. Then he opened a screen. This folder is what she tried to delete permanently last Friday morning. Inside, screenshots of text messages between Aurelia and Draven dating back 18 months. Explicit, mocking, careless. Draven. He's too busy playing Father of the Year to notice I've been playing husband in his bed. Aurelia. He still thinks Napa saved our marriage. I just needed the vineyard and the optics. The rest was already yours. I scrolled in silence. More screenshots. Photos of them vacationing in Turks and Caicos at a time when I was supposedly away for work. Fake receipts, forged signatures, real-time transfers between shell companies. The worst part? One message from Aurelia, time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Aurelia, we take the money and vanish. Dahlia's too young to understand. She'll forget. That's when I saw red. Forget. Dahlia, my daughter, my reason for waking up some mornings, was a disposable piece in her Conti. That was the moment fury replaced confusion. That was the moment I stopped trying to understand her and started planning how I'd make sure they both never touched a dime again. Or my daughter. I called my attorney, Carla Rousseau. I want full emergency custody filed today. I have grounds. I have evidence. I want Draven hit with a restraining order. You sure, Logan? She asked. Once we file, this gets messy. It's already messy. I want bloodless war. Fast, efficient, public if necessary. Carla exhaled. Then send me everything. I did. By Thursday, Aurelia's attorney reached out, not to apologize, not to negotiate custody, but to demand restoration of lifestyle funds. She claimed I'd emotionally abandoned her and used finances to control her freedom. I sent back a 1-sentence reply. The court will decide what's fair. Dahlia sensed something by the end of the week. Children always do. I tucked her in one night and found her clutching her favorite stuffed bunny tighter than usual. Daddy, she whispered, is Mommy mad at us? No, sweetheart, I said, my voice calm despite the storm. Mommy made some choices, and now it's Daddy's job to protect you. She blinked. From what? I smiled. From forgetting what love really looks like. And as she drifted off to sleep, I sat there beside her bed, in the quiet house Aurelia had emptied, and I made a promise, not just to Dahlia, but to myself. They thought they could rewrite the story without consequences. But I was just getting started. You don't have to scream to declare war. Sometimes the deadliest strategies are crafted in quiet rooms by men who already bled their last drop of emotion. That's who I became the week after Aurelia vanished. No rage, no theatrics, just a precise, surgical focus to dismantle everything she thought she could get away with. My first move was reclaiming the legal foundation beneath my life. Carla Rousseau, my attorney, didn't just file for emergency custody. She filed for a financial freeze across every estate-linked asset, pending a forensic audit. Aurelia and Draven's paper trail, once smudged with deception, was now being weaponized against them. But I knew the legal system favored optics, so I leaned into mine. In Napa, image was everything, and no image was stronger than the narrative of a devoted father betrayed by his wife and brother. Carla arranged a press leak. Quiet, but deliberate. Just a few calls to the right people. Charity board members, gallery patrons, family foundation partners. It began with murmurs, then bloomed like a virus. Have you heard what Aurelia did? She ran off with his brother, didn't she? And the kid? God, imagine the custody fight. By Friday, Aurelia was social kryptonite. I watched it unfold from my vineyard office, where I took conference calls with major buyers while Dahlia painted quietly in the corner. I didn't say a word to the press. Didn't need to. Aurelia had counted on me imploding. Instead, I evolved. Malik delivered more digital evidence. Emails between Aurelia and Draven involving encrypted bank transfers, names of offshore accounts, references to a man named Felix Lorenzo, a shadowy wealth advisor known for laundering assets through wine and art auctions. I handed it all to Carla. Bring in the IRS fraud unit anonymously, I said. Let the feds dig in. I want to stay clean. Carla raised an eyebrow. You're not just playing defense anymore. No, I said, looking out at the hills where our daughter once ran with a pinwheel. I'm reclaiming everything she tried to hollow out. The first custody hearing arrived in silence. Aurelia hadn't even returned to Napa. She sent a lawyer from San Francisco, a smug man in Gucci loafers who argued Aurelia was entitled to temporary funds and joint custody. Carla stood, cool and lethal. Your Honor, we're submitting evidence that Ms. Vance fraudulently liquidated assets, removed the child without informing the father, and engaged in a romantic relationship with his sibling while misusing trust resources. The judge skimmed the thick file and looked at Dahlia's photo, then at me. Full temporary custody to Mr. Pierce. Financial freeze granted. Mrs. Vance may file a rebuttal after appearing in person. It wasn't victory. Not yet, but it was blood on the battlefield, and Aurelia didn't even show up to defend herself. Back home, Dahlia asked, Is Mommy coming back soon? I knelt beside her. Maybe, but until then, I'm right here. She nodded and placed her little hand on my face. You don't cry much, Daddy. I do, just not where anyone can see. She hugged me, and I knew this wasn't about winning a divorce. This was about preserving something sacred in the ruins. The next few days were a calculated chess game. Malik discovered Felix Lorenzo's involvement in a fraudulent auction scheme. I notified the Department of Treasury. Let the federal gears turn. Then came the unexpected twist. One of Aurelia's closest friends, Sasha Renner, reached out privately. I know things I don't want to carry anymore. She lied to all of us, Logan. I met her at a rooftop lounge in San Francisco. Sasha looked tired, frayed around the edges. She said you were cheating, that you were emotionally abusive. She showed us fake screenshots to get sympathy. Did you believe her? She hesitated. I wanted to, until I saw her with Draven. The way she looked at you in public. Cold, like she wanted you to fall apart. I didn't say anything then. I'm sorry. What changed? Sasha blinked back tears. I saw Dahlia with you last week. She looked safe, happy. That girl's your world, and Aurelia's trying to rewrite it like you're the villain. She handed me an old phone. Screenshots. Voice memos. One clip with Draven and her talking about how to flip custody if things went bad. I took it. My hands didn't shake. I had crossed the emotional Rubicon. You did the right thing, I said. Now let's make sure no one else gets burned. That night, as I reviewed the recordings, I found the final nail, a voice memo. Draven, laughing. If he finds out, he'll implode. He always wanted control. Let's see how he handles being powerless. But he was wrong. I wasn't powerless. I was building the most dangerous thing of all, a man with nothing left to lose and everything to protect. The moment I stepped into our penthouse suite, the silence punched me in the chest. Dahlia's room was dimly lit, her suitcase open on the bed. She was packing. Her back was turned, her long curls draping over one shoulder. She didn't flinch when I walked in, just kept folding clothes in slow, deliberate movements. What's going on? I asked, keeping my voice steady. She paused, one hand gripping a shirt she hadn't folded yet. Mom said it's better if I stay with her for a while. I took a step forward. Did she tell you why? Dahlia's lips tightened. She said you lied, that you were going to destroy everything she built, that you're jealous. I exhaled, trying not to let anger seep into my voice. Dahlia, that's not true, and you know me better than that. She finally turned to face me, eyes glistening. I don't know anything anymore. All I know is the people I trust are tearing each other apart. I wanted to reach for her, to make her understand. But what could I say that wouldn't sound like another plea, another parental tug of war? She picked up her bag and walked past me without another word. And just like that, the space that had once been filled with laughter, debates over paint colors and movie nights, shrank into silence. That night, I sat at the dining table alone, staring at a half-eaten dinner while Aurelia texted me from across the city. You did this to yourself. Don't make Dahlia choose. She deserves peace. This is what consequences feel like, Logan. Her words were poison, but not unexpected. She was framing herself as the victim, the protector of our daughter, while I played the monster role in her script. The twisted part? She almost believed it. The next morning, Mason Rhodes sent me a private message. Let's meet. He chose a quiet brunch spot in Hayes Valley, upscale and popular with board members who liked to talk shop over Eggs Benedict. He looked tired, like a man carrying the weight of too many secrets. She's planning something big, he said, stirring his espresso. River has been negotiating behind your back. A separate deal. Aurelia's involved. I clenched my jaw. They're going after Cole Renner Design. Mason nodded. And more. They want your name off everything. Rebrand the firm. Say you were the liability that held them back. I leaned back, fists on my thighs to stop them from clenching. She built her reputation on my work. I know. We all know. But she's shifting the narrative, playing the betrayed woman who saved the company card. And Draven? I asked. He's hiding in the background for now, but he's feeding her intel, financials, even private family accounts. That hit me like a sucker punch. She has access to accounts tied to my father's trust. Only through Draven and Sasha. Mason hesitated. Sasha's playing both sides. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Sasha, the friend who'd helped decorate Dahlia's nursery. Sasha, who cried with us when Logan Sr. died. She'd always been closer to Aurelia, but I never imagined betrayal. I rubbed my temples, the fog of betrayal getting thicker. Then we go to war, I said. Mason looked surprised. You're ready for that? She weaponized my child, drained my accounts. Now she wants to erase my legacy. I don't just want justice. I want scorched earth. Over the next week, I set my legal team in motion. Non-compete clauses, fiduciary breach accusations, digital forensics. I combed through every transaction, every signed NDA, every shared account. There was enough to drag her through court for years. But I didn't want years. I wanted impact. My private investigator, Nolan, came back with surveillance footage of Draven and Aurelia at an off-the-record retreat in Santa Barbara. The photos were damning. Draven massaging her shoulders in a private pool, hands drifting in ways no friends ever should. The footage included audio. Draven: Don't worry, babe. Logan's too prideful to go public. He'll just fade like his career. Aurelia: He thinks he's so stoic. It's cute, honestly. He still wears the watch I gave him for our first anniversary, like it still means something. It wasn't just infidelity. It was ridicule, mockery of a man they believed was finished. I sat in my home office for hours that night, replaying that line, over and over. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about pride, dignity, the version of me they thought no longer existed. I emailed the footage to my lawyer with a single instruction: do not leak yet, but prepare for maximum impact. Then, I made a decision I knew would change everything. I showed the footage to Dahlia. She stared at the screen, lips trembling, shoulders stiff. When the video ended, she didn't cry, she didn't scream, she just stood. How long? She asked. I don't know exactly, but long enough to corrupt everything. Her voice cracked. She told me you were dangerous, that you were unstable. She made me choose. You don't have to defend her anymore. She shook her head. I'm not. I feel stupid. She said he was your cousin. That's how they got away with it for so long. Dahlia collapsed into the armchair, burying her face in her hands. I hate them. I sat beside her. For once, we were on the same side of the truth. After that, it moved quickly. Mason coordinated a shareholder emergency meeting. I took the floor with quiet authority, backing every accusation with forensic accounting, surveillance records, and the security footage. The board was stunned. Some of them had signed with Aurelia's new firm without realizing she was planning a hostile acquisition. The fallout was immediate. Aurelia's public image as the graceful, wronged wife shattered overnight. The press had a field day. Golden couple implodes, the architect, the affair, and the inheritance war. Draven tried to disappear, but not before his private messages to Aurelia were subpoenaed. One of them read, Dahlia's just like her dad, cold, calculating. She'll come around once she sees we're the stronger team. The backlash was nuclear. Sponsors dropped Aurelia's new brand, investors pulled funding, and her nonprofit patrons turned cold. Meanwhile, I took back control of Cole Renner Design, reinstated my original team, doubled their salaries, and I made a public statement. I built this company on trust, vision, and love for the craft. It was nearly destroyed by people I once called family. But let me be clear. Legacy is not something you inherit. It's something you defend. People ate it up. Media outlets called me a phoenix. But I wasn't looking for praise. I was reclaiming what was mine. One evening, while Dahlia and I were having dinner, she looked up from her plate. Do you think people can change? I paused. Some do. Most don't. She nodded. I don't think Mom will ever admit she was wrong. She won't need to. The world already has. A few days later, Sasha requested a meeting. She came to the office wearing oversized sunglasses and a face full of regret. I didn't know how far they were going to take it, she said. Aurelia told me you were manipulating the board, that you cut her out of everything. I said nothing. She lowered her voice. I believed her because I wanted to, because she made me feel seen when I was being ignored. I stared at her. You weren't just complicit, Sasha. You helped them bury me. I know. Her voice cracked. I lost everything, and I deserve it. She stood and left, not asking for forgiveness, just letting the silence swallow her shame. Later that night, I received a call from River St. James himself. His tone was cold, businesslike. You're making a lot of enemies. I smiled. I've made peace with that. You could have walked away, let it all go, and let people like you keep winning? He sighed. What do you want, Logan? To make sure people like you never mistake kindness for weakness again. Click. He didn't call back. That weekend, I took Dahlia to an art auction downtown. Her idea. She wore a simple black dress, hair pinned back, confidence blooming again. We walked past photographers, heads held high. One reporter shouted, Mr. Cole, any message to your ex-wife and cousin? I paused just long enough. Tell them thanks for showing me who I never want to become. That headline trended for days, but I didn't care about the noise. All I cared about was this. My daughter beside me, smiling, my company restored, my name clean. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration. And I had taken back everything they tried to steal. I never wanted to be a man who played dirty. But when the people you've protected turn out to be the ones gutting you behind closed doors, you either die quietly or you rise with fire. The morning of the arbitration hearing was silent. I sipped coffee in my Napa kitchen, surrounded by the cool, curated emptiness Aurelia left behind. Mason was already downtown in San Francisco, prepping with our legal team. I had one more conversation to finish, one I'd been building toward for months. Dahlia's face appeared on the screen as the video call connected. She was still wearing her school sweater, the blue of it soft and familiar. She gave me that same wary look she'd worn since her mother poisoned her against me. But now, she didn't hang up. Hey, baby girl. She didn't respond immediately. What do you want, Dad? I let the silence sit for a beat. Then I asked the only thing that mattered. I need you to be there today. Not for me. For the truth. Just watch. That's all I ask. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Before she could disconnect, I added, I never stopped loving you. Even when you were too angry to hear it. Just remember that. Then the call ended. No promises. No reassurances. But I knew my daughter. She was coming. The arbitration hearing wasn't held in a courtroom. It was in a private downtown building, all glass walls and exposed concrete. But inside, the knives were just as sharp. 3 high-powered arbitrators sat at a sleek black table, watching us like hawks. On one side, Mason, Sasha, and me. On the other, Aurelia, Draven, and their smug corporate counsel. River St. James didn't bother to show. That told me everything. He already knew what was coming. I kept my eyes on Aurelia, and she refused to meet them. She wore a white pantsuit, too crisp, too clean, as if scrubbing away her sins would make them invisible. Draven sat with his legs crossed, leaning back, smirking. The lead arbitrator, a no-nonsense woman named Evelyn Curran, opened the session. Mr. Pierce, you've petitioned for sole ownership of Pierce Vance Holdings, citing breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, and hostile displacement. You may proceed. Mason stood first. Thank you, Ms. Curran. We intend to demonstrate that Aurelia Vance and Draven Pierce conspired to remove Logan Pierce from the company he co-founded, while siphoning funds into off-book ventures, including a fraudulent consulting pipeline and illicit real estate holdings through front companies in the Caymans. He handed over a slim black folder. Inside, paper proof, ledger trails, emails, phone logs, everything we'd spent 6 months digging up. But that was just the opening volley. Sasha stood next, graceful and razor-sharp. Additionally, we'll show how they weaponized the plaintiff's personal life, manipulating public perception, tampering with family testimony, and even doctoring documents to accelerate Mr. Pierce's removal. Her eyes flicked to Aurelia, who flinched. Then it was their turn. Aurelia's attorney launched into a counter-narrative so theatrical it nearly insulted the room's intelligence. She painted Logan as emotionally unstable, an absent father, a distracted businessman, driven to paranoia by grief and professional jealousy. But the problem with spinning lies in a room full of professionals? Facts talk louder. Mason waited, patient, and then calmly asked, "Would the panel like to hear a 2-minute phone recording between Miss Vance and Mr. Draven Pierce from March 3rd? The lead arbitrator raised an eyebrow. "Proceed." Aurelia stiffened. Draven went pale. The audio played from a Bluetooth speaker. Their voices, unmistakable, slithered through the room. "If we push him out by Q2, the board will back it," Draven said. "And once the RD funds clear, I'll reroute them through River's End," Aurelia replied. Draven laughed. "He's too proud to even see it coming." The room fell silent. One of the arbitrators visibly clenched his jaw. Aurelia looked at me for the first time, and I saw it. Shame, panic, fury. "Do you deny that voice is yours, Ms. Vance?" Mason asked gently. She didn't answer. Draven leaned forward, aggressive. "That was taken without consent. It's inadmissible. It's legal under California's dual consent doctrine when one party has reason to believe fraud is being committed," Sasha replied coolly. The arbitrators murmured among themselves. It was clear. The tide had turned, but I wasn't done. "May I address the panel directly?" I asked. Ms. Curran nodded. Briefly, I stood and looked at all three. This company was my father's legacy. He left it in my hands. Aurelia was supposed to be my partner, not just in business, but in life. She used our marriage, our daughter, and my trust to climb higher. And then she handed the knife to my brother and watched me bleed. Then I turned to Aurelia. "But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for restoration. Not just for me. For every honest builder who's been stripped down by the people they loved most." I sat down. Aurelia blinked furiously, biting the inside of her cheek. Draven shook his head and whispered something into her ear, but she shrugged him off. The cracks were showing. The hearing concluded. We were told the decision would be delivered in writing within 24 hours, but I already knew. I had won. That evening, I drove up to Vista Point, a cliffside property I used to take Dahlia when she was a little girl. I didn't expect her to be waiting there, but she was. Arms crossed, eyes guarded. "I listened," she said flatly. "And?" She hesitated. "It was true, wasn't it? Everything." "Yes." She nodded, lips pressed together. "I still hate how this happened. I hate what it did to our family." I looked out over the ocean, then back at her. "I do too, but you deserve the truth. And the chance to choose what you want to believe." "I don't know what I believe," she whispered. "You don't have to decide tonight. Just don't let someone else write the story for you. Not your mother, not me, just you." She turned away, arms hugging herself. "I'm tired of being angry. I'm here when you're ready." As I walked away, she called softly, "Dad?" I turned. She paused. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I nodded. You don't have to apologize. You just have to come home when you're ready. And I left her with that. The next morning, the verdict arrived by courier. Mason handed it to me without a word. Final decision. Effective immediately, full executive control and ownership of Pierce Vance Holdings will be reinstated to Mr. Logan Pierce, Miss Aurelia Vance, and Mr. Draven Pierce are barred from serving on the board for a period of no less than 10 years and are subject to further investigation pending financial audits. It was done. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Not until the news broke. Within hours, financial blogs lit up. Then came headlines. Then calls from venture partners asking for statements. I gave none. But the final blow came not from me, but from River St. James. In a desperate move to protect his own brand, he issued a press release throwing Aurelia and Draven under the bus. I was unaware of the unethical use of RD resources and have formally dissolved all advisory roles associated with Pierce Vance Holdings. The wolves turned on each other. Fast. By sunset, Aurelia's social media had been scrubbed. Draven's apartment in Pacific Heights was swarmed by journalists. Former allies deleted posts. A flood of investors filed notices of withdrawal from side ventures under their names. The empire they built on betrayal collapsed in a single day. That night, I stood alone in the winery courtyard, a glass of Cabernet in my hand. The moon was sharp, white against black. Mason stepped beside me. You good? He asked. Getting there. Tomorrow's the custody hearing. I nodded. One war ends, another begins. But even as I said it, I knew this one was already over, because truth has momentum, and so does justice, and I wasn't alone anymore. The courtroom was freezing, not from the temperature, but from the tension that wrapped itself around every inch of the space. The air was laced with unspoken truths, desperate lies, and the electric buzz of anticipation. Logan Pierce sat tall, still and centered, his hands folded calmly in his lap. He wore a charcoal suit, the same one he'd worn the day Dahlia was born. Beside him, his attorney Mason Rhodes whispered a final strategic note. Across the room, Aurelia Vance sat like a statue, glossed, tight, perfect in her presentation. Draven slouched slightly beside her, eyes avoiding Logan's at all costs. For the first time since their betrayal, they looked small. And Logan? He looked immovable. Your Honor, Mason began as he stood, his voice confident but not arrogant. We'd like to submit into evidence the financial transaction trail discovered in late April, the video surveillance files from the Vance property, and the communications from Ms. Vance and Mr. Pierce to Mr. River St. James, all of which were retrieved legally and verified for authenticity. Judge Calhoun, a seasoned man known for his intolerance of manipulation, adjusted his glasses and nodded. Proceed. The courtroom screen lit up. Frame by frame, it played out exactly as Logan had prepared. Aurelia passing off checks from the trust fund to Draven, text messages between them joking about Logan's naive loyalty, Draven's wire transfer to River St. James's Shell LLC, and finally, the unedited footage of Aurelia entering River's hotel suite after telling Logan she was too emotionally overwhelmed to attend Dahlia's school play. Gasps echoed from the gallery. Logan never looked away from the screen, not even when Aurelia finally did. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability, and Logan Pierce came prepared to collect. By the time Mason finished his summary, comprehensive, calm, lethal, Judge Calhoun leaned forward. Ms. Vance, Mr. Pierce, do you have anything to say before I make my recommendation to the family court and the state's attorney? Aurelia opened her mouth, but no sound came. Draven was frozen. Mason looked at Logan, who gave a barely perceptible nod. It was over. At least in this building. The judge tapped his gavel. Full custody of Dahlia Pierce is hereby granted to Mr. Logan Pierce. Ms. Vance and Mr. Draven Pierce will receive no access unless formally petitioned and reviewed after psychological and ethical evaluations. Additionally, the court will recommend a fraud and breach of fiduciary duty investigation to the State Bar and Attorney General. We are adjourned. Outside, a dozen photographers and 2 reporters were already on the steps. Logan didn't speak to them. He didn't need a soundbite. The footage would speak for itself. Back at his Napa home, Logan walked into the foyer where Dahlia waited, curled up on the couch with a book, Sasha Renner beside her. Dahlia dropped the book the moment she saw him. "Did they say yes?" she asked. He dropped to one knee and held her close. "They said yes, baby. You're home, always." She clung to him like her life depended on it. Maybe in some way it had. Sasha stepped forward, her eyes glassy. "She didn't even ask about the hearing," she said softly. "Didn't even text." Logan nodded. "I know." For months, he had prepared for the possibility that Aurelia would weaponize Dahlia one last time, use guilt, fear, or worse. But she hadn't. She had gone silent. Not out of mercy, but because her world was imploding. By Thursday morning, Logan's inbox was flooded. River St. James had been subpoenaed in connection to 3 fraud cases involving forged trusts, 2 of which were linked back to Vance assets. Aurelia's name appeared in every single ledger, and her signature on multiple falsified statements meant automatic disbarment. Her law license was suspended by noon. Draven, despite his desperate efforts to claim he was manipulated, found himself at the center of a breach of trust scandal involving multiple stolen trust funds and client accounts, some predating the betrayal of Logan. His financial records betrayed him faster than any testimony could. Logan didn't gloat. He didn't post about it. But he did something else. He called Mason. "Make sure the fund Aurelia built with my name on it is dissolved immediately. And anything still linked to me, I want it severed, regardless of profit loss." "You'll lose millions, Logan," Mason warned. "I already did," Logan said flatly. "Now I'm done." Dahlia's new school counselor called that week too. "Mr. Pierce, I just wanted to let you know, Dahlia's doing exceptionally well. She's ahead in reading, emotionally mature, and she's taken to mentoring 2 younger students. It's rare, especially after what she's been through." Logan paused. "Thank you." "She said something in class today that stayed with me," the counselor added. "My dad doesn't just tell the truth, he waits for it to work. Thought you'd like to know." He hung up and sat in silence. The weight of it all, loss, betrayal, justice, love, it didn't vanish, but it became lighter. Carried correctly, even pain can transform into wisdom. That night, Dahlia curled up beside him again, asking for another chapter of the book they started before everything fell apart. "Do the voices, Dad," she whispered. He smiled. "Only if you get the popcorn ready." Later, once she had fallen asleep, Logan stepped out onto the patio. The vines of Napa glowed silver in the moonlight. Sasha joined him quietly. "She's safe," she said. "She is," he replied. "And you?" He took a deep breath. "Getting there." They stood there, shoulder to shoulder, saying nothing more. But there, in the soft quiet of a world rebuilt from ashes, Logan Pierce knew one thing with certainty. They thought they broke him, but all they did was free him. The morning after the hearing was quiet, no chaos, no tension, just stillness. For the first time in months, maybe years, Logan awoke without dread sitting on his chest like a weight. The Napa sunlight drifted through the linen curtains, gentle and forgiving. And beside him, on the edge of the king-size bed in the new house he'd built, Dahlia sat cross-legged, eating cereal and watching something on her tablet. She looked up and smiled with her whole face, genuine, unguarded, safe. There was no Aurelia, no Draven, no curated lies, just Logan and Dahlia, and silence that didn't feel empty but earned. The final judgment had been issued late yesterday. Full custody, immediate transfer of all shared properties into Logan's name, a freeze on all spousal support, all pending defamation claims against Aurelia and Draven greenlit for civil pursuit. The judge's tone had been matter-of-fact, but the subtext was fire. The court had seen the rot beneath the glamour, and it sided with the man who never raised his voice but built a fortress out of truth. Draven had been escorted out of the courtroom before the decision had even been fully read, yelling something about bias, corruption, injustice. Aurelia followed, not once glancing back at the man she'd tried to erase. Their exit was cinematic, tragic in its own hollow, high society way. No longer the power couple, no longer adored, just exposed and defeated. Logan looked at Dahlia now, her curly hair pulled back, her small fingers drumming against her bowl. She wasn't just his daughter. She was his reason, his anchor, and he had her. For real, without court-ordered interruptions, without manipulation hanging over their time. "Daddy?" she asked. "Can we go to the farmer's market today? The one with the music?" He smiled. "Of course we can." Downstairs, Mason Rhodes was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scanning his tablet. His firm was preparing the next phase of litigation, recovery of damages for emotional distress, reputational harm, financial sabotage. It wouldn't restore what was lost, but it would make damn sure Aurelia and Draven didn't get to spin the story into something sympathetic. Sasha Renner, now interim principal at Dahlia's private school, had reinstated Logan's full parental rights and personally apologized for previously acting on falsified reports. She'd even invited Logan to speak at the school's upcoming parent symposium on resilience and renewal. He had declined, graciously. The spotlight no longer interested him. He was building something quieter. Later that morning, Logan stepped into the glass-walled conference room of River St. James's Media Group in downtown San Francisco. River stood by the window, overlooking the city's skyline. Sharp suit, eyes like steel. "I read the statement you drafted," River said. "It's powerful, strategic, clean." "It's not vengeance," Logan replied. "It's clarity. I want the record corrected, not dramatized." River nodded. "It'll go live on Monday. Major outlets will pick it up within hours." The media wasn't Logan's battlefield, but truth was, and truth had receipts, legal backing, and digital paper trails now. Aurelia's lies had once shaped headlines. Now her silence would be louder. By mid-afternoon, Logan and Dahlia wandered the stalls of the Napa market. Musicians played jazz near the coffee carts. A breeze carried the scent of lavender and warm bread. People glanced at him, some recognizing him from the coverage. No whispers, just distant respect. Dahlia tugged on his sleeve. "Can I get 2 honey sticks? One for me, one for Sasha." "You like her now?" "She apologized, and she said she was wrong about you." Logan knelt beside her. "It's okay to forgive people who were misled. That's how we teach them to be better." As they walked, Logan received a message from Mason. Settlement offer came in. "They're panicking. $3.2 million to avoid trial." He didn't respond. Not yet. Money wasn't the point. Power wasn't revenge. It was restraint. That evening, Logan met with Sasha in her office at the school. She looked nervous, but prepared. "I wanted to say this in person," she began. "You were right to push back. You never raised your voice, but your evidence made all the noise we needed. I believed reports that weren't vetted. That won't happen again." "I appreciate that," Logan said. "But it's not about me anymore. It's about how you protect other fathers like me going forward." She nodded, and for the first time, Logan saw her not as an adversary, but a professional who had learned something the hard way. Outside the school, the evening light settled over the parking lot. Logan called Mason. "Reject the offer," he said. "We're not bargaining truth." Aurelia and Draven wouldn't be ruined by this. Logan had never wanted their total destruction, but they would carry their consequences like luggage too heavy to put down. Not punishment, just proportionate exposure. The next day, Logan opened an envelope that had been mailed without a return address. Inside was a photo, a torn one. It was of him and Aurelia at their wedding in Florence. Her half had been burned away. There was a note in Draven's handwriting. "You think you won, but we had each other first." Logan shook his head, almost laughing. They still didn't get it. Victory wasn't about being first. It was about being whole. And nothing about them had ever been whole. Just overlapping illusions, stitched together with borrowed charm and borrowed time. He tossed the photo in the fire pit. Dahlia was out back, chasing fireflies with the neighbors' kids. Her laughter was real, unshadowed. That was what mattered. That weekend, Logan finalized the plans for his new consulting group, Pierce Strategies, built not on vengeance, but on protecting others from what he endured. Men who lost their voices in custody battles. Women erased by financial betrayal. People ignored because they weren't loud. On launch day, a journalist called for a quote. Logan gave her 3 words: "Truth rebuilds legacy." By month's end, Aurelia and Draven's accounts were frozen. Their properties listed for forced sale. Draven's name trended on social media, not for any success, but for a scandal involving falsified identity records in past real estate deals. The walls had never been soundproof. They just hadn't listened. River called Logan one evening with final numbers. "Your platform has tripled in reach. You've gone from client to leader." "I don't want to be the face of a movement," Logan said. "You already are." In early June, Dahlia graduated from her grade level with honors. Sasha handed Logan the attendance badge, Father of the Year. It was symbolic, sure, but it landed differently. It wasn't about being celebrated. It was about being believed. As the summer approached, Logan stood in the vineyard he now owned. His own plot, not leased or borrowed. He wasn't rebuilding the past. He was planting something new. A journalist's question returned to him. "What do you say to men going through what you did?" He whispered the answer aloud, to no one. "Stay steady. Not loud. Not broken. Just steady." He looked toward the house. Dahlia was inside, FaceTiming with Mason's daughter. They were planning a lemonade stand. Childhood, peace, possibility. He went back inside, closed the door, and left his phone on the table. No alerts, no noise, just him, just life. Logan Pierce had lost everything that wasn't real. And now, he had everything that was. In life, the deepest betrayals don't always come from strangers. They come from those we once trusted with everything. And when the truth finally rises from beneath the silence, it doesn't just shatter illusions, it rebuilds foundations. This story reminds us that dignity isn't loud, and justice isn't always swift. But both can be quietly, powerfully earned. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like revenge. It looks like choosing peace over chaos, clarity over resentment, and presence over the noise of other people's narratives. It's about reclaiming the narrative, not through rage, but through unwavering resolve. And it's about protecting what matters, not image, not power, but the small sacred spaces where love lives and grows. For those who've been silenced, doubted, or pushed aside, this is a reminder. Stay the course. Let the truth do its work. Let time reveal what noise tries to hide. And when your moment comes, don't shout. stand. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or simply gave you something to think about, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded,